Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about a powerful yet often misunderstood choice. A choice to stop calling, to stop texting, to step back and reclaim your peace. Now let me be clear, this isn't about playing games or testing her patience. No, this is about something far deeper. It's about what happens when you respect yourself enough to give space. You see, when you stop reaching out, something extraordinary happens. You set a standard. A standard that says, I will not chase, I will not beg, I am enough as I am. And guess what? That energy, that confidence, it speaks louder than any words you could ever text or call. Now, let's talk about her. When you step back, you give her the chance to reflect. She starts to notice your absence. She begins to evaluate your value. And whether she misses you or moves on, her response tells you everything you need to know. When a woman's actions don't align with her words, it creates a web of confusion, uncertainty, and doubt. Words, after all, are promises. Little threads that tie people together in relationships, friendships, and trust. But when those words become hollow, unbacked by consistent action, they lose their meaning and significance. This disparity between what is said and what is done is one of the most telling signs of deceit or a lack of sincerity. But the most troubling is when those words also suggest a deceit or a lack of sincerity. Imagine someone saying, "You mean everything to me," yet making no effort to prioritize you in their life. They claim to care deeply, but their behavior tells a different story. Days pass without meaningful communication. Plans are constantly canceled or delayed, and excuses replace the time they once promised. This inconsistency is not just a minor oversight, it's a red flag. Inconsistency is not just a minor oversight, it's a red flag. It demonstrates that their words are being used as a tool to placate, to keep you attached, while their actions reflect a lack of genuine commitment. Do you know the meaning of that word commitment? And if you do, are you committing to it? Actions are the true measure of intentions. When someone cares, it shows in what they do, not just what they say. A sincere person backs their words with effort. They are present when needed. They honor their commitments, and they ensure their behavior aligns with the trust they seek to build. But when a woman's actions fail to match her words, it raises questions about her authenticity and motives. For example, she might repeatedly express love and devotion, but rarely makes an effort to invest time in the relationship. She might promise to support you, but disappears when you need her most. Over time, these inconsistencies erode trust. You begin to wonder if her words are merely a facade, a way to maintain control, or keep you emotionally invested while her true priorities lie elsewhere. One of the most troubling aspects of this behavior is how it manipulates emotions. People naturally want to believe in the promises made by those they care about. Hearing words of affirmation, love, or commitment can create a sense of security, even when the accompanying actions are missing. This imbalance keeps you stuck in a cycle of hope and disappointment, clinging to the belief that her words will eventually align with her deeds. And when confronted about this inconsistency, such individuals often deflect. They might downplay their behavior, blame external circumstances, or accuse you of being overly demanding. This deflection is another layer of manipulation, designed to shift focus away from their own shortcomings. It perpetuates confusion and leaves you questioning your own perceptions and feelings. The gap between words and actions is not just about broken promises. It's a reflection of character. A person who cannot align their behavior with their statements lacks integrity. Relationships require honesty and effort, and when one party continuously fails to deliver, it undermines the foundation of trust. Genuine intentions are always evident in what someone chooses to do, not just what they claim to feel or intend. In the end, noticing this discrepancy is crucial. It's a signal to reevaluate the relationship, to question the authenticity of the connection, and to protect your own emotional well-being. Consistency is the cornerstone of trust, and without it, words become nothing more than empty echoes. Insincere availability is one of the most telling signs that something might not be right in a relationship. It's not just about missing a call or forgetting to reply to a text. It's about a pattern of unpredictability and emotional detachment that leaves you feeling unimportant or neglected. When someone is genuinely invested in you, their availability reflects that. They make time, they show up, and their presence is felt. But when availability becomes inconsistent, it often signals that their priorities lie elsewhere. Imagine reaching out to someone who used to respond instantly, but now hours or even days go by without a word. When they do reply, it's filled with excuses. I've been so busy. I didn't see your message, etc. And as the objects start to run through the small faces of the conversation, something came up. While everyone has moments of being occupied, a pattern of these responses raises questions. Are they truly busy, or are they deliberately choosing not to engage? It's the uncertainty that gnaws at you, leaving you feeling like an afterthought rather than a priority. Instantly, availability creates a roller coaster of emotions. On the rare occasions when they're fully present, it feels like old times, filled with connection, laughter, and warmth. But then just as quickly they pull away, becoming distant and unresponsive. This back and forth dynamic can be emotionally draining. It keeps you on edge, wondering when they'll disappear again and whether you've done something wrong. Imagine setting your mind to a beautiful scene by clouds, and somehow during a cloudy mid-evening blue sky, something brightens the clouds. It's as if their presence is conditional, leaving you chasing moments of connection that should come naturally. This behavior often leaves you second-guessing yourself. You may find yourself justifying their absence, telling yourself they must be swamped with work, dealing with personal challenges, or simply needing space. While these reasons might sometimes be valid, when inconsistency becomes a pattern, it reflects a deeper issue. A person who values you will find ways to balance their responsibilities while maintaining consistent communication. They won't leave you in the dark or make you question your worth. That means a lack of a conversation, isn't it? At least in my. Insincere availability can also be a sign of divided attention. Perhaps they are exploring other relationships or their focus is elsewhere. Their inability to commit fully to the relationship manifests as sporadic engagement. One day they're texting you all night, making plans and sharing stories. The next, they vanish without explanation. This erratic behavior creates an emotional imbalance, with you doing all the work to maintain the connection while they contribute on their terms. What makes this even more challenging is their ability to justify their absence when confronted. They might say, you know, I'm always here for you, or I've just been so overwhelmed lately. These reassurances often feel hollow because their actions tell a different story. True commitment doesn't waver based on convenience. A person who genuinely cares will make an effort to ensure their availability is consistent and reliable, even during challenging times. The most damaging aspect of inconsistent availability is its effect on trust. It plants seeds of doubt, making you question their intentions and feelings. Over time, you might begin to question your own value in the relationship, wondering why they can't prioritize you the way you deserve. This emotional uncertainty chips away at your confidence and the foundation of the connection itself. Consistency is a hallmark of respect and care. When someone is truly invested in you, their availability reflects that investment. Inconsistency availability, on the other hand, often reveals where you truly stand in their life, even if their words suggest otherwise. Always pay attention to actions. They rarely lie. Manipulative behavior is one of the most toxic traits a person can bring into a relationship. It's subtle at first, often disguised as care, concern, or even affection. But over time, the true intentions behind these actions become clear. They are about control, power, and serving their own interests at your expense. Manipulation is not always obvious. It's a silent force that twists emotions, perceptions, and situations to benefit the manipulator while leaving you questioning your own reality. One of the most common forms of manipulation is playing the victim. When confronted about their actions, they shift the focus onto themselves, portraying their behavior as a reaction to your supposed shortcomings. Suddenly, instead of addressing their faults, you find yourself apologizing for something you didn't do. This tactic not only diverts attention, but also reinforces their control by making you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. Gaslighting is another powerful weapon in the manipulator's arsenal. They distort the truth, deny events, or twist words to make you doubt your memory and perception. You may hear phrases like, "You're overreacting," "That's not what I said," or "You're imagining things." Over time, this constant undermining of your reality erodes your confidence and leaves you dependent on their version of events. It's a calculated move to keep you second-guessing yourself and reliant on them. It's a calculated move to keep you second-guessing yourself and reliant on them for clarity. Manipulative people often use emotional blackmail to get what they want. They exploit your vulnerabilities, making you feel as though their happiness or well-being depends entirely on your actions. Statements like, "If you really loved me, you would do this," were statements like, "If you really loved me, you would do this," or "If you really cared about this, you would do this," or "If you really loved me, you would do this," are designed to guilt you into compliance. This behavior creates a dynamic where you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid upsetting them, even at the cost of your own needs and boundaries. You constantly wonder if your needs and boundaries, if your interests and desires are met. Another hallmark of manipulation is the strategic use of affection. They might shower you with love and attention when they want something from you, only to withdraw it when you fail to meet their expectations. This hot, strung-souled behavior keeps you hooked, always striving to earn back their approval and affection. It's a calculated cycle of reward and punishment that ensures you remain emotionally tethered to them. Manipulators are also skilled at creating a false sense of obligation. They remind you of everything they've done for you, making you feel indebted to them even when their actions were driven by ulterior motives. They'll say things like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me." This tactic ensures you feel trapped, unable to assert yourself for fear of being seen as ungrateful or selfish. Perhaps the most damaging aspect of manipulation is how it isolates you. They might subtly discredit your friends and family, planting seeds of doubt about their intentions. Over time, you find yourself more reliant on the manipulator, believing they are the only one who truly understands or supports you. This isolation strengthens their control, making it harder for you to see the situation for what it truly is. Manipulative behavior is not about love or care. It's about control. It thrives on creating doubt, guilt, and dependency. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from their hold and reclaiming your sense of self. Lack of transparency is one of the most unsettling behaviors in a relationship. It creates an environment of uncertainty, leaving you questioning what's real and what's being hidden. Transparency is the foundation of trust. It allows both individuals to feel secure and valued. When someone consistently withholds information, avoids open communication, or deflects when asked direct questions, it's a signal that something deeper might be wrong. The absence of openness doesn't just erode trust. It plants seeds of doubt that grow over time. At first, a lack of transparency might seem insignificant. It could be as simple as avoiding details about their day or brushing off certain questions with vague answers. "It's nothing," or "Don't worry about it," might become their go-to phrases. While these responses may seem harmless initially, they often mask a reluctance to share their true thoughts, feelings, or actions. Over time, these small omissions accumulate, creating a wall of secrecy that leaves you feeling disconnected and excluded. One of the most telling signs of a lack of transparency is an overreaction to basic inquiries. When you ask questions about their plans, friendships, or decisions, they might become defensive or accusatory, turning the conversation back on you. Why are you so nosy? Or don't you trust me? Are phrases often used to shut down conversations and deflect accountability. This defensiveness is not about protecting their privacy, it's about avoiding exposure. Instead of fostering understanding, it creates a sense of mistrust that lingers long after the conversation ends. Another common behavior is the selective sharing of information. They might tell you just enough to keep you satisfied, but key details are conveniently left out. For example, they may mention meeting a friend but avoid sharing who it was or where they went. This partial disclosure creates a smokescreen, giving the illusion of openness while keeping the truth obscured. It's a calculated move that allows them to control the narrative while keeping certain aspects of their life hidden. Lack of transparency often extends to their emotions and intentions. They may avoid discussing how they truly feel, leaving you guessing about their commitment or priorities. Instead of openly addressing conflicts, they might resort to silence or indirect communication, hoping the issue will resolve itself. This emotional opacity makes it difficult to build a deep and meaningful connection. When someone isn't honest about their feelings, it creates a one-sided dynamic where you're left doing all the emotional labor. The most damaging aspect of a lack of transparency is how it affects your sense of security. When someone isn't forthcoming, it's natural to fill in the gaps with assumptions, often the worst-case scenarios. This constant game leads to anxiety, overthinking, and a gradual erosion of your confidence in the relationship. Instead of feeling like a partner, you begin to feel like an outsider, left to navigate a maze of half-truths and omissions. Transparency is not about sharing every detail of one's life, but about being open, honest, and consistent in communication. When someone chooses to withhold information or operate in secrecy, it signals a lack of respect and a disregard for the mutual trust that relationships require. The absence of openness creates a divide, turning what should be a partnership into a struggle for clarity and understanding. Engagement in parallel relationships is one of the most painful betrayals in a connection. It's a sign that someone is emotionally and perhaps physically involved with multiple people at the same time, often without their partner's knowledge. This type of behavior goes beyond simple infidelity. It involves the deliberate division of attention, affection, and loyalty, all while maintaining the illusion of a committed relationship. The complexity and emotional weight of such relationships can be overwhelming, leaving the person on the receiving end feeling hurt, confused, and manipulated. At first, signs of engagement in parallel relationships can be subtle. They may become increasingly distant or unavailable, often citing work burden, no commitments, or needing space. Their behavior starts to shift, once open and warm, now cold and guarded. You might notice them withdrawing from you emotionally or physically, but when you confront them about it, they may offer vague reassurances like, "I've just been busy," or "I'm not in the right headspace right now." These excuses, while seemingly harmless, are often a cover for the reality that their attention is divided and you're no longer their priority. As time goes on, the patterns become more apparent. They might have unexplained absence, late-night calls that they quickly dismiss, or overly secretive behavior when it comes to their phone or social media activity. These are red flags that they may be involved with someone else, but somewhat the transparency leaves you second-guessing. The emotional toll this takes is immense as you try to convince yourself that there's nothing going on, all the while sensing that something isn't right. In these situations, the manipulation becomes evident. They begin to create emotional distance while still providing just enough attention to keep you emotionally invested. They might shower you with affection on their terms after they've spent time with the other person. For instance, leaving you to feel as if their love is conditional. You may be caught in a cycle of longing, waiting for their attention to be fully yours while they are emotionally engaged with someone else. This behavior is designed to keep you hooked, to make you feel wanted just enough to prevent you from walking away. but not enough to ever truly feel secure in the relationship. When confronted about their actions, someone involved in parallel relationships will often resort to gaslighting or denial. They may turn the situation around on you, questioning your trust or making you feel guilty for accusing them. You're overreacting, they might say, or I'm not doing anything wrong, you're just being insecure. These responses are meant to deflect responsibility and keep you doubting your instincts. It's a strategy to maintain control and prevent you from uncovering the truth. The emotional impact of engaging in a parallel relationship is devastating. It creates a constant sense of anxiety, doubt, and betrayal. The individual who is being deceived is left in a state of emotional limbo, uncertain of where they stand, questioning the authenticity of the love they're receiving. Every moment of intimacy feels like a fragile illusion, and every word of reassurance seems increasingly hollow. The fear of being replaced or cast aside lingers in the background, creating a sense of insecurity that is difficult to shake. Engagement in parallel relationships is not just about infidelity, it's a sign of a deep lack of respect and commitment. It reflects an individual's unwillingness to be honest, to communicate openly, and to honor the trust that their partner has placed in them. This behavior creates a toxic, unstable dynamic that prevents true connection and growth, leaving both individuals in a state of emotional turmoil. Exploitation of trust is a painful betrayal that undermines the very foundation of any relationship. Trust is the most fragile yet essential component of any connection, whether it's romantic, familial, or even professional. When someone exploits this trust, they take advantage of the openness and vulnerability you've shown, using it for their own benefit while disregarding the emotional cost to you. This form of manipulation is particularly damaging because it strikes at the heart of what makes any relationship meaningful. The mutual understanding that both parties are honest, respectful, and genuine with one another. The exploitation of trust often begins subtly. At first, the person may appear to be supportive, understanding, and caring. They might rely on you for emotional support, asking for help with their personal struggles or offering reassurance in times of need. You open up to them believing that they will reciprocate with the same level of honesty and care. However, over time you begin to notice small inconsistencies or imbalances in the relationship. They may take advantage of your willingness to listen, only to use the information you've shared against you later. They might bring up personal details you've confided in moments of vulnerability, either to manipulate you into complying with their wishes or to assert control over you. This is a clear sign that your trust is being exploited for their personal gain. Another form of exploitation is when someone uses your loyalty and goodwill to manipulate your actions or decisions. They might take advantage of your sense of obligation, creating a false narrative that their well-being is tied to your support. For example, they may constantly ask for favors, never returning the favor, and always making you feel like you owe them something. This can be as simple as borrowing money and not repaying it, or as complex as asking for emotional support without ever offering any return. The manipulator subtly builds a sense of dependency, making you feel responsible for their happiness or success. Over time, you may realize that your generosity is not being met with the same kindness and that your trust is being taken for granted. Exploitation of trust also manifests in how someone treats your boundaries. A person who genuinely respects you will honor the limits you set, whether they are emotional, physical, or mental. However, someone who is exploiting your trust will consistently push those boundaries, either by ignoring them or manipulating you into lowering them. They may pressure you to share more than you are comfortable with, or they might repeatedly violate your personal space and emotional needs, all while using the excuse that they care about you or they didn't mean to hurt you. By doing this, they chip away at your self-respect and diminish the trust you have in yourself, leaving you questioning your own boundaries. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of trust exploitation is the way it often goes unnoticed until the damage is done. The manipulator is skilled at hiding their true intentions, making you feel like their actions are just part of the natural course of the relationship. They may disguise their manipulation as love, care, or concern, all while taking advantage of your emotional investment. The longer this behavior goes unchecked, the more deeply entrenched it becomes, and the harder it is to walk away from the toxic dynamic they've created. Exploitation of trust leaves lasting scars. It doesn't just damage the relationship, it also affects your sense of self-worth and your ability to trust others in the future. Once trust has been exploited, it's difficult to rebuild because the foundation has been cracked. The betrayal leaves behind a residue of doubt, insecurity, and emotional exhaustion that can take years to heal. The person who exploits trust knows the value of the emotional bond they're manipulating, but they choose to break it in pursuit of their own needs and desires. This leaves you feeling betrayed, isolated, and ultimately more cautious in your future relationships.